Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cleveland Browns postgame show. Final score 37-21, Kansas City. We'll have some panel members here fairly shortly. I think I walked away from the game, and in the last 2.5 minutes, I'm not gonna watch garbage time, folks. I just report on the bulk of the game and why the game ended up the way that it ended up. Bruce Arians noticed it. Anybody who watched the Browns knows that for the past 15 years, the team can't tackle. It's all about effort. It's all about coaching. It's all about wanting to win. It's all about losing control of your team. I saw a headline. It's funny how I relate to certain things as far as headlines are concerned, because bad organizations are bad organizations, and I think that's the way it works. You look at who's at the bottom of the NBA year after year, and you see them turning over coaches, and you see them never progressing and never getting anywhere, and that's pretty much what you have in Cleveland. It's like 52 pickup. Just doesn't work. Hi to Rick and hi to Brian. How you guys doing? I want to point out that if anybody has any questions, we're over on YouTube, but I'll tell you right off the bat that Greg Williams will be gone at the end of the year. Greg Williams should be gone. He should be gone this week. He's lost the defense. The defense isn't trying anymore. We saw the first several weeks of the season, a hustling, spirited group of people beaten down into submission. And like I said at halftime, and I'm going to make more of a point of now, if our offensive line was Cam Irving and Ryder and Mitchell Schwartz, it would suck. Properly coached, properly schemed, non-salvageable players are suddenly on the team with the best record in the AFC. And we give them away for nothing. Yep. You have to look at this for what it is. And you can say, well, get rid of this guy, get rid of that guy. Yes, they will go on. Some of them will fail. Some of them are Barkevius bingo and will never be any good. Others will be far better than what you thought they could be because the organization lost the players. Today, Greg Williams proved to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that he should be gone, that he should be over with.
Preach.
There is no reason that you bring men out in your first game. This is the player's response to what happened. This is the player saying, all right, this is how we react to the coaches being dismissed. We don't care. And when you don't pursue the ball, you don't try to tackle anybody, when you really had a chance to score 30 points in a game and your defense just quits, literally lays down, you can't have any of it. I don't hear Myles Garrett talking shit now. He just looks like a little pussy, doesn't he? He just looks like a guy who he wants to disappear. He wants to crawl into a hole at the 50-yard line. Yep. That's what Myles Garrett looks like to me. They all look like whipped puppies to me. C. Jizzle BMG, how does Amos Jones still have a job? I don't know. Because maybe he's accountable to Jimmy Haslam. I don't know why. I don't know how we end up with these people who are just so inept. How does Kindred, if you look at the film every week, how is it possible that he's not cut? He's not even trying. And I'm ready, to say, we got to get fresh people as far as coaches in here, because we're going to make more mistakes getting rid of players who turn out to be better. But, what they're doing on the field, Jamie Collins deserves to be mugged and beaten up and then locked in the back of a trunk, Ray Caruth style. He's not even working. Guy's not even trying. David Njoku is a fucking waste of time. David Njoku, not only does he drop passes, he just doesn't block. And then he turns around and looks at the guy next to him. It's the same shit as what Cam Irving used to do. And you have to wonder, whatever it is that's supposed to be taught to these players is not being taught.
Preach.
And as long as players are pointing at one another saying, but I thought you were going to do that. As long as running backs are allowed to run out into the flat and catch unaccosted passes multiple times on third down with nobody even slipping off to cover, if this is all the better the understanding of these guys are for the defense they're supposed to be playing, you need a new coach because he's not communicating it. It is impossible that every player is this bad. It is impossible. Just not being taught.
No.
So it doesn't really matter who plays or who we draft. This is the horrible message. They'll end up playing down to their lowest conceivable level. And you'll never know whether they're just a bunch of Justin Gilberts or whether they're really good players who will blossom with other teams. Because nothing's being taught. Wable says, we just got beat by a better team. No, I'm sorry. No. Excuses. You can lose like men, or you can lose like wimps. I'm not going to tell you that the Browns in their current alignment would really have a good chance against the Chiefs. I'm not going to tell you that. But we just got beat by a better team. I accepted. And so have all the players. Every one of the players went out on that field saying, they're the better team. No try, no effort, no fire.
And not only that, Mr. Moohead, there were no halftime adjustments on the defensive side of the ball. Like the third quarter, the Chiefs score on that first drive, I mean, you already knew that it was pretty much almost over at that point. Because if you're looking from an offense standpoint, Baker's playing from behind. So he's playing that whole catch-up. Well, if he knows no matter if he scores, they're just going to score right back on the defense. And what's even the point in scoring on offense?
Well, I mean, look, it's like, and again, let's face it, no one in their right mind would have predicted a Browns victory. And I already said that, Mark. I mean, I'm not telling you that in our current alignment that we would have had a good chance. But there's a difference between losing and laying down. And I understand how many people were injured. I get that. And the reason our defense was the way that it was schematically was because we lost our cover corners and we play press defense and we didn't have the ability to do that. So I understand that. But there is no excuse for just not knowing where to go on the field. It's a total lack of preparation. And when the players don't work hard enough in preparing, then it doesn't really matter who plays and who doesn't play. They're just running like chickens with their heads cut off. They don't know the scheme.
So Mr. Moohead, Greg Williams moving up to head coach or intern, whatever you want to call it. You said it last week. You said, I know he's a good defensive coordinator, but I don't think he's a great head coach. Maybe
no.
And this proves it. This game proves it.
Well, what proves it is his past. He hadn't been a head coach since 02-03, and he was 17-31 with the Buffalo Bills. Ouch. He's a flaky guy. And he's not going to be the kind of guy who's going to rally a team together. You got to have somebody who, there's a difference between somebody who screams and yells at you and then somebody who points you in the right direction and motivates you to do the right things. And there is a method to coaching, and he does not have it. And the players are collecting a paycheck, and I believe are taking themselves out of the game saying they're hurt. I'm sorry, but I believe that people just don't want to be out there. They don't want to be playing, and they don't want to be taking the physical risk where there just isn't a dedication on the part of management, ownership, bringing in capable coaches, and the players are not motivated to learn the scheme. All of this should have been done in preseason. They should know this like the back of their hand. And, again, what I said before the year began, I'll say it again. 4 games, 4 games, 4 games, 4 games. You tell me how the Browns are trending. You don't need me anymore to tell you. You've got eyes of your own. Oh, they're just a better team than we are. I'm asking you to compare the Browns of week 9 to the Browns of week 1, 2, and 3. That's all I'm asking you to do. It has nothing to do with who we play. It has nothing to do with the quality of the competition. Nothing. What it has to do with is ourselves. Are we getting better as a team or worse? We're clearly getting worse. And the reason is because we kept an 0-16 coach for no goddamn reason. The well was poisoned. The players are poisoned.
Yep.
Thomas Estep, you're right. J.B. Collins is sorry as heck. I mean, I didn't see anybody in their backfield. I saw plays where our entire defensive line was knocked to the ground. And I agree. We can't force an ownership change, Mark, but I agree with you. It's the reason things are the way they are is because you've got an idiot behind the scenes, guy who's a moron. Yeah. But in the end, you've got to be able to get your players to do what you tell them to do. If you can't do it, you're not a coach.
Hope Williams kept all of those contracts he said he got this past week. He may have to look at them.
That's going to be the thing that's going to be the determinant. I really do believe. I think I think that at the end of the year they'll let him go, and somebody will say, well, he's got plenty of jobs to choose from. And I think that's what's going to happen.
Did you take offense to that, Mr. Moohead, when Mr. Greg Williams said, hey, look, by the way, I got 15 offers. I can go anywhere I want.
He's a schmuck.
Yeah, it came off kind of being like an ass, like saying, hey, look, they came and begged me for this job in Cleveland. I didn't have to come here. That's what it came off to me as.
No, what it came off to me as is that he was saying he wanted to be here because if he didn't, he had all these great opportunities elsewhere, which makes him dumb. If he didn't take those opportunities, he's an idiot.
Right.
Why would he take this one?
And he said 4 of them, he didn't even have to go in for an interview. All he had to do was just get on the phone, and it was a signed deal over the phone.
Yeah, I mean, it's nutty. I mean, that doesn't even, it's more Hugh Jackson bullshit. I mean, and the players are playing like their coaches are full of shit. They're not to be believed, not to be, they're not going to perform. And, it's a shame.
Except for Duke Johnson, who apparently played his ass off.
Yeah, I mean, best impact is saying I see positives in the offense, but negatives in the defense. I see negatives all the way around. I see teams that are able, it's just like the Cavaliers, teams are able to take their foot off the gas and whip us at will when they get serious. All they have to do is put their foot down and they can just score at will or stop us at will, or we'll just blow up in our own face.
Which Colquitt had a blocked punt? Was it Britain?
Yeah, our guy, of course. I mean, and it's because Kindred didn't block his man. I mean, it's over and over and over again. They don't do their jobs on special teams. It's just, Mike is saying the biggest problem, anyone with options does not come to Cleveland. It's a career killer for players, trainers, coaches, etc. Especially now with Jimmy Haslam, nobody will want to come here. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was going to say, in fairness, it is hard to block somebody when you're stuck on the astral plane.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, kindred spirit. He was invisible again. Missing Phil Dawson says fire Amos Jones, and then Cribbs will be the special teams coach. Cribbs is brain damaged. I don't want to have anything to do with him. He's part of a losing past and a player who just turned to the fans for support and didn't do dick in the end of his career. Fuck him. I get tired of these guys. Go away. Duke Johnson was running out of bounds like he's scared to take a hit. No, Duke Johnson was running out of bounds like he was conserving his body. He looks like he's hurt to me. He always looks like he's hurt. He always, to me, looks like a guy who's one play away from coming off the field.
Yep.
Just not a real, it's just like Sammy Watkins. You can count on his ankle going or his foot going or something.
Well, that's why he's the third option on that team.
I mean, yeah, and Emos is saying, really, on Cribbs? So negative. It's like, people forget that the Cribbs that was at the end who whined and complained and this and that, he went to the fans and when he was good and he got his payday. He used the fans. And then when he was washed up and had nothing left to give, then his attitude got bad.
Yep.
And, if you're high on Cribbs, you don't even remember what happened a few years ago. All right. You get, it's just like Jason Kipnis is only excited if he's in the starting lineup, if he's doing what the second you bench him, he becomes subversive. It's a lot of guys who are like that, and they're not winners. That's for sure. Mark Jones is saying Baker is still playing hard, but you can tell he's losing energy. He's getting battered out there. Well, I mean, he made the bad throw across his body, and again, a rookie quarterback mistake, and this happens. I think the play calling was more solid. He was only sacked 2 times because we ran the ball. It isn't for big yardage that we ran the ball, but we used the clock more efficiently, and instead of in third and short situations, instead of going into these bizarre pass plays and end arounds, we just stuck the ball up in there and moved the chains. And I think that buys Baker Mayfield a little bit of safety anyway. Wable says we're just not good enough yet, but we will never be good enough with these coaches. The players will never perform up to their level and their ability, and we won't be able as fans to determine what their upside is because the coaches are not accountable for getting them to learn the system.
Not to add insult to injury, but the Steelers beat the goddamn Ravens again.
Well, and so it will go. Emos, I'm not trying to kill your vibe, but there was no way you were winning this game. Boy, I'll tell you, we live in the age of Trump and Democratic politics. All right. The reason, Emos, that my mouth is moving is because words are coming out and you have to listen. Did I say that we were set up to win this game? You're not listening. I'll say it again. There's a difference between losing like men and losing like wimps. And we quit.
Preach.
And Steven's got our scores from Friday to prove it. So
yeah,
there you go.
I mean, we were all saying how many points Kansas City would score on this defense. We knew that would be the case, and that was before they all went down injured. Williams stated all week he won't put up with lazy players not playing hard every play. Yeah, we'll see what he does this week. Yeah, that's right, Thomas. And nothing will happen this week. Nothing will happen. You watch.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, we're going to get 4 press conferences about how great our practices were.
Yeah, a late interception by Baker was boneheaded, but he was at least trying to make something happen. I'm not blaming Baker Mayfield at all. I'm blaming the defense, the lack of effort, the lack of tackling. And I don't care if, we talk about next man up at the halftime show, and I understand we're thin. But if you're on an NFL roster, you got to be able to tackle better than that.
Oh, yeah, not to change the subject up on you, but Rick and Ron came up the closest. The final score was 37-21. Ron had 36-21, so really close. He was 1 point off. and Rick had 38-17.
There you go. I mean, I think all of us knew how many points were going to be scored against us, and I think Greg Williams did too, because he kept going for 2-point conversions and going for fourth downs. I think he recognized how deep the water was too. Emos is saying you're so
or he was point shaving.
Yeah, Emo says you're so disappointed. It's like, disappointed? No, this is what we've come to accept in Cleveland. The reason it's disappointing is because you know damn well these players have more upside than this, and they can play much harder than this.
Preach.
The disappointment isn't in the W's and the L's. The disappointment is in the lack of effort, and that these players that the coaches have again lost the players. And that's right. Arians was saying how many tackles the Browns were missing. You can't win playing like this. It's a total lack of effort. It's just there are a lot of people who want to just give up, and I personally think that as long as Haslam is here, that there will be no real advancement of this organization, no matter who is hired. And I think the same thing is true with the Cavaliers, by the way. I think as long as Dan Gilbert's running the ship, there's going to be, and somebody, it was funny the other day on Twitter, somebody wrote to me that Dan Gilbert was the best owner in Cleveland's modern age history.
Ooh.
And, I'm sitting there and listening to this stuff and saying, what kind of a take is that? I mean, I remember Dick Jacobs buying an absolutely bereft Cleveland Indians team and turning it around into a World Series team.
And getting a stadium built.
Getting a stadium built, getting talent in, building a minor league system, and getting Albert Bell and getting Jim Thome and getting Kenny Lofton in a trade where we fleece somebody, getting guys who were, talented young players, Carlos Baerga, developing these players or getting them via trade, Baerga and Alomar. Dick Jacobs was a far better owner than Dan Gilbert because he didn't have one player who gifted him what limited success he has. Just look at year to year to year. LeBron's in Cleveland. Cleveland wins, makes the playoffs. LeBron leaves for Miami. They're the worst team in basketball. And the owner gets drunk and he writes the midnight letter. Then LeBron comes back. The team wins and wins the championship. LeBron leaves. They're the worst team in basketball.
Yep. And
the owner has fired the coach, and it's the same shit. So, bad ownership dooms you, You're looking at the Falcons running up the Redskins' ass. Why? Don't be surprised. With Dan Snyder there, don't be surprised,
Mr. Moohead, not only that,
thanks, Emos. Thanks for showing up. I appreciate it.
Mr. Moohead, just one thing, and I'll let it get back to you. And that drunken midget not once but twice knew that this team needed help once LeBron was leaving. On the first time he left, they were the worst team in the NBA for like 4 seasons straight, and now they're probably going to go through that again, if not longer now.
That's right. And he didn't learn from the first one, did he? And what's amazing about it is talent assessment, that he actually believed that the roster that he put together this year for the Cavaliers was good enough to win. I'll tell you something. The Browns have a good enough roster to have more wins than 2 this year, okay? Dorsey brought in enough talent that we could have squeaked by and gotten 1 or 2 more wins so far, all right? But to sit there and to think that you were going to rip it up in the league and be a 7th or 8th seed with Jetty Osmond, George Hill, and Larry Nance Jr., and whatever cast-offs, Jordan Clarkson, a 19-year-old rookie, you just don't get it. And that's the problem with Haslam. He just doesn't get it.
Preach.
So, Dorsey knows talent. He'll get talent, but if you have the wrong coaches, these guys will not be motivated to play. And believe me, all you have to do is look after a game. If you find where one team is hanging out and drinking and partying, you're going to find both teams that played that night, right, or that day. These guys are a very small fraternity, and they talk. And it's like, if they offer you big time, millions and millions of dollars, go there and just don't listen to anybody. You'll collect your money. That's the way it works in Cleveland. They're going to lose anyway. That's all Jamie Collins did. Jamie Collins showed up. And he was waiting to get traded back to New England, and it didn't happen. And fuck it, he's not even trying. Not even trying. So, this is, I guess, the dilemma. You're going to draft and get more people, and you're going to get more help. And the players started playing hard because they got a little taste of success, and then it all went to hell. Yep. And it went to hell partially because lack of wide receivers. The team didn't do what it needed to do to get quality receivers for a rookie quarterback. And partly because we play the wrong running back. Partly because our play caller refused to use Duke Johnson, who had 9 receptions for 78 yards today, even though he was clearly limping and wasn't his usual self as far as having burst on the field.
Coaches with ego fighting amongst each other.
Yeah, I mean, just an absolute disaster. If you look at, the guy who never was able to play, or never called plays in his life, can come in and just basically say, okay, we're just going to run Chubb at the goal line and we're just going to duck our heads down and get it into the end zone. I mean, it was like, wow, is it really that easy? It's just a...
And not to mention, you got an idiot owner up there, too, that's running this shit show. And just other coaches see it and they're like, oh, God, if Dorsey can't deal with it, what makes you think I want to go there, Yeah,
I mean, Jay Charles is saying people have all the excuses when they lose. That's why you play the game. I mean, in the end, Jay Charles and everyone else, it becomes a mindset of the fan base. The stands were almost half empty in Cleveland Brown Stadium. Nobody wanted to see this. And, Melford, Joachim, hi, I'm glad you stopped by the program. We're not crying when we don't have anything against the Chiefs either. Now, Technically, what we do dislike are bandwagon fans like yourself who jump into a program's chat room and start being offensive when we're not being offensive toward your team. So, I hope your team goes through the rest of the season and wins the rest of their games and does well in the AFC. You, on the other hand, I hope you have a stroke. Okay, thanks for visiting. Mike McClendon is saying, look, you get on my wrong side. You get on my wrong side. I mean, that's the Trump in people. You got to step on them when they're down. It's like you beat us. Anyone would have beaten us playing the way we did. You got a really good team, so you beat us worse. What do you want me to say? Facts are facts, but that doesn't mean you're not an asshole for jumping in and being a dick. It's all right, Melford. I'm just telling you. Okay, and I'm sorry too. We're friends now. This is a different kind of show. We accept responsibility as good fans when our team doesn't, it's not like we blame. You don't hear me crying about the officials,
This is why we haven't been picked up by a major network.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't, I think we're pretty even keeled when it comes to this sort of thing. If there's righteous anger directed at the officials, like there would be, during, the Raiders game or whatever, I'm the first one there and on the bandwagon. But no, I don't take anything away from teams as good as Kansas City. And look, it took Kansas City time to build that. And, it takes time to build. And you have a guy who's a head coach who has been a successful head coach in the NFL, as opposed to the people we have who never been successful.
People forget that Andy Reid went to 4 straight NFC championship games with Donovan McNabb as his quarterback. So
and won Super Bowl.
Say what?
I don't know. I missed whatever Steven said.
Yeah, I did too. It cut out.
You said they went to 4 straight NFC championships, and then they went to one Super Bowl appearance, in which many said they probably should have won that game. But
yeah, I mean, Andy Reid's a solid head coach, And, and you got a good quarterback. And look, Dorsey drafted some good players and got some good people, and the coaching staff put it together well. I still say that the weakness of Kansas City in the end will be that defensive line. You cannot allow teams to run over you like that. They need to be more assertive against the run. That would be my only thing. I mean, but I think Mahomes just got beautiful, beautiful foot movement. He's got many angles he can launch the ball from. He's got a great, powerful arm. He's accurate, and he's evasive in the pocket. You can't ask for more than that, And
he's capable of scampering for 15 yards when he has to.
Yeah. Missing Phil Dawson is saying Moohead, yes. Who do you want the next head coach to be? I know that would come up. My feeling is this. There aren't guys like Andy Reid with winning NFL records on the unemployment list. You look at the New York Giants hiring Pat Shurmur. That's what's floating around is the flotsam, the people who were left behind because they were losers, and they waited and waited and waited for the old boys network to catch back up to them. And we need to do something which is a little bit different, because this league is predicated on offense, and the Chiefs are a pure example of that. I mean, the Chiefs are a team that, honestly, if they bend but don't break that often, they're offense is going to score plenty of points, and they're going to be in every game or blow lesser teams off the field. It is an offensive game. It's no different than the NBA, which has become a 3-point league, so much so that 7-foot guys are shooting threes. That fast breaks terminate with guys passing out of a layup situation to hit open threes. You have to, if you don't have 3-point shooters, Dan, you drunken midget. If you don't have 3-point shooters in today's NBA, you're not going to win. All right. It's why the Celtics are not going to win. All right. They're not going to win a championship. It's not going to happen. You have to have 3-point shooters. And in the NFL, you've got to have an open offense. You've got to have that quarterback. And I'll admit where I was totally wrong. I mean, you can have all the Saquon Barkleys you want, but if you have Eli Manning, you have 1-in-7 mania. You suck. And that's the way the NFL is. Browns got their quarterback. I think Baker's a good quarterback, but you can't make it without wide receivers. You can't not have backup at those positions. You can't be throwing Njoku and Callaway and Perryman out on the field and expect to win football games. This is today's NFL. So the head coach has to be somebody who has an offensive pedigree. You cannot promote defensive coordinators in this NFL. And, the speed of the game and the rules of the game have influenced what the defense is not allowed to do anymore. I'd like to tell you, Melford, that you're absolutely right that the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl and win, but I have a feeling not. And the reason I have a feeling not is because you're dealing with a second-year quarterback who's playing in his first year, who's having a lot of success, but there's going to be a lot of pressure to bear in the playoffs, and that's something he hasn't seen. It's something the team hasn't seen. It's expecting a hell of a lot to say we're going to go all the way. I think you should be happy with the fact that you have a team that's going to be in the running for many, many years. And that is more significant because it's kind of like, the Cavaliers here, our window was narrowed because LeBron kept signing for one or 2 year deals and leaving us off balance and not committing to long term. When you have long term on good young players, you're going to be a good team for a good long time. So, the window, let's just say your opportunity, your window is open. Now, you got to take advantage of it one of these seasons. So that's a nice place to be. That's a nice place to be. So, I hope you guys do well. I don't see it happening this year, but it's possible. Believe me. Missing Phil Dawson's asked me, Moohead, yes. Do you think Njoku and Peppers are trending toward bust status? Yeah, I do. I think Peppers it wasn't trending. He was there from the get-go. I don't even understand. He doesn't have speed. He doesn't have good instincts. I don't know what he's out there for. He looks like a guy who's totally lost. And Njoku is like a ball full of talent, but it's like totally unmolded clay. And again, I don't know what our receivers coaching does, but he doesn't have an idea on who to block. Doesn't have a clue.
Nope.
Every game, he just lets somebody blindside his quarterback. It's really weird. So, I'd say that Njoku could be salvageable if somebody would coach him. But Peppers, I have a feeling, was a guy in college who didn't have a position.
Either that or make him the slot receiver and then put in Fells and DeValve who can actually block.
Yeah, I mean, Njoku is that tweener guy. And everybody, again, this is today's NFL. Everybody wants to have a tight end that can get down the field and make big plays. I get that. But you have to be able to play your position. And, Peppers, when he was at Michigan, I think people were is he a linebacker? Is he a safety? I don't know. Is it a dessert topping or is it a furniture wax? I mean, right.
They kind of saw what Daum Buchanan can do for the Cardinals defense, where he does play that in between strong safety linebacker position and is able to actually make some plays. And I think they were hoping to get the same kind of production out of Jabril Peppers, but he's not quick enough.
I mean, Mark Jones says we must fix the offensive line, but you just saw two of our guys from the worst Browns teams you've ever seen. You saw Irving and Ryder, who wasn't even a starter, and Irving, who is the joke of the town. You just watched them kick our ass. And, we must fix the offensive line coach too. That fat fuck Wiley isn't obviously, I don't know, this isn't being taught to people where, Desmond Harrison was gone and the offensive line protected the quarterback better than with him in. I guess I don't understand.
Wild E. Coyote, super imbecile.
Yeah. I mean, but a guy whose stomach bounces up and down every time he talks looks more like a cartoon character. He looks like he's going to have a heart attack, and he hasn't taught.
There was a Tom and Jerry mouse like that.
Yeah, I mean, but he obviously hasn't taught anyone very well either. And that's right. Peppers was all over the place. And, I don't want a jack of all trades out of college. And I'll say this about Myles Garrett that bothers me is that, these guys who were really, and I think Jerome Kearse was like the first one, who are slightly undersized but real athletic, fast, they can get powered out pretty well if their technique isn't just amazing. And, drafting people like that way high based on athletic talent and avoiding, quarterbacks that could have helped you win earlier, these are mistakes that the organization has made. And, you can't have a group of receivers where the only speed is a guy two guys who traditionally can't catch the ball because they have bad hands. I mean,
one has penguin flippers.
And they don't run good patterns either. Both Perriman and Callaway are not good pattern runners. And, you've got Higgins, you've got Landry, and they're all the same guy. I mean, you see Landry catch the ball. He ain't running anywhere after he catches it. Let's be clear about that. He's a guy who's got good feet, who can make a good move to get open. But after that, he's no yards after catch guy, And Thomas Estep is agreeing with me about Wiley. And, the offensive line, not up to snuff. But we can't, it was funny when I saw Brady Quinn announcing college games. It's like, God, he's still so young. It's like Brady Quinn, was terrible in college. I mean,
yeah, it was.
I remember against Michigan State when he just panicked when he was under pressure. And I said, God almighty, If that's what he's like in a college game against a team that has a pass rush, he's coming to Cleveland. And you saw what happened to him. You know. Yeah. And Missing Phil Dawson is saying we always have the scraps of the coaching pool around the league. We need better coaches. And yeah, Hugh calls the job the Mount Everest of the NFL because, you know, he has to make it into whatever it is. You know, I made a living out of.
I'd vote for stripping North Dakota State of their entire coaching staff.
Yeah,
17 Division III titles can't be wrong.
They must know something.
Until they come to Cleveland, and then when they see Jimmy Haslam, they're like, "Oh shit!"
No, the Mount Everest comment. You know, I bought radio stations in Flint, Michigan, when it was promoted as the worst city in the United States, far before there was a water problem in the city. Go back to 1989. I took over the radio stations January 1st of 1989. Take a look at all the plants, the Fisher Body plant, and all the plants that were being closed in Flint. Every talk show, including Phil Donahue, came to Flint because it was the unemployment city of America. All right. And everybody had an excuse. You know, the people who sold the radio station, it's fucking Flint. Oh, it's fucking Flint. You know, fucking Flint was fucking good. All right. I didn't retire at 43 because it wasn't. It was a great opportunity for me because I was young, I was hungry, I was industrious. The opportunity's always there. When you're a guy, a lazy man like Hugh Jackson, who would rather walk into a more established situation, you have no idea how to climb Mount Everest. But let me tell you something. It takes boundless enthusiasm. What I learned is that when I went to a community like Flint and everybody had a defeatist attitude, it was easier for me to win. I mean, I think the Browns, if somebody came in and really whipped them into a frenzy, there'd be so many teams taking it easy on them that we'd win a lot of games because people wouldn't see us coming. And that's exactly what happened in Flint. I ran over everybody because I was enthusiastic. People who'd been there for a long time were real blasé about it. And that's the Mount Everest thing. You got to.
Well, and I think that's kind of what happened the first 3 weeks of the season. Nobody took them seriously, and so they were in every fucking game.
And the team was excited about playing. I mean, you know, energy is what gets you to the top of Mount Everest. And when the air gets thin and when it gets harder and harder to climb, you got to have the will. And you got to go in with a hell of a lot more will than what Hugh Jackson has, or Todd Haley has, or Greg Williams has. You know, these are men who have been employed in the NFL their entire lives and figure there's always another job waiting for them. And it takes somebody who's young, who's fresh with energy, and somebody who's so hungry for an opportunity that they're going to work their ass off. And they're going to make sure that the right things get communicated to the players. You know, it's
you had how one loss in Cleveland, like you could lose one game and how it completely sucks the energy out because they're so used to that. If you go to New England, they'll lose one game. They're like, oh, that's just one game out of the year we typically lose, and then they go on an 8-game winning streak. But with the Browns, it seems like after that loss following the win against the Jets and what should have been a win against the Raiders, and then following their second win, after that loss, after the fact, you can see how it tumbled from there.
Yeah, it's now I'm reading the comments in the chat room. The players have given up and employees tune out bad management. Every radio station that I purchased that was in bad shape was in the same situation where the employees, they stopped caring because management didn't care. They were settling for a paycheck. And the vast majority of those people, once we started winning, were great employees. You cannot judge the players predicated on the coaching staff and the people that they've had surrounding them, because that's the unfortunate reality, is that we're turning good players into worse players. Thomas Estep is saying it's crazy. Like every team we played this year, dial up every blitz package they have against us. If we just practice on blitz protections all week, we have to do better. Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. They can keep that in their hip pocket and get through to us anytime they seem to want to, because we're just not glued together very tight. And it's so when I think of head coaches, I don't want to be scouring the list of the Jeff Fishers. I just don't want that.
No,
I mean,
worse.
The problem is that what young college coach who's worth his weight, and if you want to use Lincoln Riley as an example, the people at Oklahoma are happy with him. I don't think fans of NFL franchises understand what Nick Saban said. Why in the hell would I want to leave Alabama? This guy's got his own show that pays him money.
Nope.
He's got more freebies than you could. I mean, that man doesn't have to pay to eat a meal.
Mm.
I mean, he gets paid more money than God, and he has his dishonest network of recruiters.
Yep.
So that he can have that advantage forever and ever. Why in the hell would he want to leave that? And that is the problem, is that college football has become way too big a business, and people don't want to leave that.
Yeah.
The guys I want are guys who are the young, good, solid, offensively minded head coaches from colleges. But if you're a really good programming, you take a look at Nebraska giving Ohio State a run, and Scott Frost over there, guy who's an alumnus.
Yeah, thanks, Greg Schiano, you fucker.
Yeah, I mean, you have a good an alumni guy who's going to take over the program, and at least you see Nebraska getting better, okay, as opposed to Willie Taggart in Florida State, where you see it getting worse, okay? You can always see what direction something is heading. But, I think Scott Frost wants to get to a point in his life where he brings that Nebraska franchise back, because that's a great job. If you go back to, the glory days of Oklahoma versus Nebraska kinds of football, that's great. And you have a cush job that is, there's far less hell to pay than there is in the NFL. So I don't know where we're going to find somebody like that. And I don't even know who he is. All I know is that it better be somebody who's offensively minded, and it better be somebody with a hell of a lot of energy, and good luck finding that person as long as Jimmy Haslam's in the chair.
Yep.
Once you start having these consistent 8, 9, 10 win seasons, you don't have to work as hard to get blue chip talent that is going to stick around, and you have 3 years with them.
Yeah, it's what incentive does Haslam really have to improve the club when he still gets an ass in every seat? The asses aren't showing up to the stadium, but they are paying for tickets. And, I don't have an answer for anybody, because that's the greatest deterrent of getting a talented coach in here, is as long as Haslam's sitting in that chair, we're not going to get it. Missing Phil Dawson is giving me a quote here. Quote, "We believe in what he's doing. We believe in the guys he's brought in. Baker Mayfield on taking heart, and GM John Dorsey helping to build the Chiefs juggernaut and the potential to do it with the Browns. We believe in what he's doing and what he's brought in, but there is no belief in Hugh Jackson, Todd Haley, Greg Williams. There's no belief in any of those people.
Nope.
Every one of those players now, they might as well be from the state of Missouri. They're in show me mode, aren't they? You show me a decent head coach. You show me a decent offensive coordinator. You show me. I'll put out for you when you get serious about bringing somebody qualified in to do the job. That's, and I think it's wonderful that Baker feels the way he feels, but you have to understand what he's saying. What he's saying is, yeah, I believe in what he's got us so far this year and what he's going to get us next year. But I don't believe in anything else right now.
Nope.
And I don't either. Neither is anybody in that locker room. When
you see all this stuff going on, you just give up. Especially even a guy like in Baker's position. He just said, wow, I have all this pressure on my shoulder, but I really feel like I can't get the job done because I have bad coaching, bad management, and a bunch of players forming their own factions. It's a civil war going on here. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, you would hope that things would have gotten better, but the second you agreed to bringing Hugh Jackson back, you knew damn well what was going to happen. Nobody goes 1-31 who's worth a shit. Nobody with any self-respect would even keep a job after going 1-31 unless he was just solely interested in himself and not anybody else. Clearly, I mean, look, the fact that he calls it the Mount Everest of football, he had a losing attitude coming in. I mean, honestly, if I really thought that way about Flint, Michigan, I'd have never gone there. If I felt that way about Binghamton, New York, I'd have never have gone there. Really. I mean, these are places that, they closed down. IBM is just like scaled way down. There's no dividend being paid anymore. They're based in Endicott, New York, which is part of the Binghamton radio market. Endicott Johnson, the shoe company, long gone. Everything was like past tense with Binghamton too. And that was better than Flint for me because opportunity is there. We have the players, goddammit. We have some of the players and we're going to get more of them next year, but without the teaching.
Mr. Moohead, Bronk wants to know if you could put the link down there again. I just saw him pop up. I thought he maybe left the chat room. He was wondering if you could put the Google Hangout link.
Well, I'm getting ready to get off the air to tell you the truth because I got other things that I got to do, and believe me, it's not like I want to give people a serious post-game show today because I think that all of this, the fans pretty well understand that we are in limbo right now because the players don't know who the coaches are going to be. They don't know, all they're going to get is yelling, screaming skull Greg Williams, and he's not going to be here next year. I guarantee you. And the players know that too. The defense is making sure. I mean, it's the most subversive thing you can do is not try to tackle people in the open field. It's basically the player's way of saying, I know I'm contractualized, but I know that Greg Williams isn't going to be here because we're going to make sure collectively that we play so poorly that he won't be asked back. I want to get rid of him. So show me, and that's the way the fans are too. Yeah, we'll buy the season tickets, but we're not going to drag our ass down to the stadium. I'm not going to watch this shit until you show me you're going to bring somebody in here. And Haslam can kill the spirit of anybody.
Yeah, he can.
Yeah, he is the ultimate succubus.
And the idiots he brings in here,
Yeah.
I kind of feel bad for Mike and his crew for having to go see the game.
Oh God, yeah. I saw it.
That's right. So the game today.
Yeah, but you got to see a good football team play. Problem was it wasn't yours. But you got to see a good team, what a good team looks like. How they execute, how they block.
So what do you think?
Go ahead.
What do you think the chances are against the Falcons? I think you guys play Atlanta next week.
Well, I mean, the Falcons have a big offense, and the defense is going to lay down.
Matt Ryan today was 26 of 38, 350 yards, 4 touchdowns.
There you go.
Julio Jones finally caught one.
I mean,
it's a long day.
There you have it. I mean, I don't know, the Buffalo Bills have Nathan Peterman and they lost 41-9, right? The bad keep getting worse.
How's Nathan still have a starting position as quarterback?
Everybody, the kid is still injured.
I got a nickname for him. Want me to do the Chris Berman?
Yeah.
And now the highlights. the highlights from the Chicago Buffalo Bills game. Nathan, not so famous Peterman. God damn. And look, I mean, the fact that Gruden lost 34-3 to the 49ers, I mean, and he's just getting rid of the roster. Don't feel good, Oakland fans. Don't feel good because he's not a good talent manager. He's not, and Atlanta over Washington 38-14, and Washington was the team with the winning record going in. And if you missed the bonehead throw, don't tell me that Darnold. Where are all the fans in the chat room now? Oh, Darnold's the man. Darnold is not the man. He threw 4 interceptions today.
And a pick six.
And a pick six and lost 13-6. His team was in it the whole way. And Sam took it upon himself with his big fucking forehead to lose the game.
Yep. Imagine you'd have been on the Browns. Oh, God damn it. Not again. I just threw 4 interceptions. God damn it.
Yeah. And he's going to come back out there and go, I really regret that. We could have had this game, but you're full of regrets, Darnold. You were at USC too. The worm doesn't turn for people who are dark clouded with huge Cro-Magnon foreheads.
Oh, God. Imagine having him and Hugh to watch for 8 weeks in a row before this fight. Jesus Christ.
Well, and his chin is almost as big as his fucking forehead.
I mean, we're 2-6.
We would be 0-6-1 with Sam Darnold, or 0-7-1.
Yeah, they are 3-6 and we're 2-6, right? So I mean, look, 2-6-1. They're one game better than we are. I don't know where you're getting this Darnold should have been the draft pick shit, because there's no relevance to that whatsoever.
Yep.
And
I was the anybody but Darnold guy.
And here's another thing that I'll tell you. You can take the Lions and ship them out into the Great Lakes, because as long as Matt Patricia, I mean that's a guy who can't be a head coach. He's guaranteed to fail. He's all wrong for the NFL today. All wrong.
Can I ask you a question about Matt Patricia? Do you think that was wrong what he did in his post-game interview where he told that reporter to sit up and ask me?
Oh, he's an idiot. Yeah, Mr. Discipline. Mr. Discipline. Keep losing, you little loser. He looks like a little homunculus. I mean, he was a fucking asshole.
And the guy wasn't even being rude to him. He just asked him hey, what are your thoughts about the game? Blah, blah, blah. What are the positive negatives? He was like, hey, you sit up and you ask that question in a proper manner. What an asshole, Yeah.
Thank you, sir. May I have another? Yeah, I know.
Coach, here's an idea. Why don't you wear your hat straight and get rid of the pencil? You use it on a laminated piece of paper. It doesn't work.
Yeah. You know what I would have done if I were the reporter? Seriously, Mr. Moohead, if he would have said something like that to me, I'd have stood up and said, Niedermeyer, dead man. Patricia, dead man.
I would have just asked the question again. I would have stayed in my position. I would have said, Mr. Patricia, I'm going to repeat the question in case you didn't hear me. I would have just trolled him. I would have just pissed him off.
Yeah, God, it's easy for you to be yelling at me. You're the one losing, not me. I'm getting paid to be here.
Today got wiped out by the Vikings.
Damn.
Yep. 24-9. You're not going to win games scoring 9 points. It's just obvious what the issues are. So time to get going here. Time to move on to better things. I'll be watching a little television tonight. I'm going to stretch my legs a little bit and get out of here. But guys, I do appreciate you jumping in on the panel today. And we'll have more on tomorrow's Moohead Radio at 6:00 Eastern Standard.
And guess what? Cavs and Magic are also playing at the same time. Our show will be starting.
Well, I can afford to miss that. I'm not going to be checking the score every 3 minutes.
I can afford to miss the entire fucking season.
You know what I might do? I might do Joe Tate. I might actually put this up through my the NBA league pass or the ticket. Isn't that what they call it? The league ticket. And put the game up while I'm on the air and do some play-by-play Joe Tate style.
How's that go?
Yeah. Every turnover. No, Virginia. There is no Santa Claus.
The rest of us can just point at the screen and laugh.
God almighty.
The Cavs could beat the Magic, though. That's a winnable game for the Cavs.
There's no winnable game. All right, guys. Thanks for showing up, and I'll see you again tomorrow at 6, okay?
Okay, fair enough.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, everybody, for supporting the Halftime and Postgame show. I truly appreciate it. Back again Monday, tomorrow on Moohead Radio. Until then, hasta la vista, Pasture Heads. Good night.